Hello, thank you for joining me for some yoga today. So today's session, we're going to focus on rebalancing our pelvis and our hips. So often we end up favoring one side over the other, and we tend to have a bit of a pelvic tilt, and that means we can over-dominate when we're using certain muscles, and then we end up with injuries or slightly iffy feeling knees or backs. So today's session is all about rebalancing your pelvis, your hips, and just finding a bit more balance in your body. So this session is great for anyone, but it's especially good if you are a runner or if you are recovering from an injury. Please bear in mind your own limitations. If something doesn't feel right, you can stop doing it. If you don't feel like pushing yourself, don't push yourself. Listen to your body. You know your body better than me. So before we get started, you will need one prop to do this session. You will either need a yoga strap, which we're going to fold, so it's folded over several times. Or if you don't have a yoga strap, it's not essential. You will need a tea towel that you have also folded over several times to create some thickness, sort of like a small sandwich. So yes, you just need a tea towel to do the session. So if you don't have one, please pause this video and go and find one, and then we will get started. So to begin, just checking my microphone's working, we're going to begin with some windshield wipers to start balancing out our hips and warming them up. So I want you to bring your feet as wide as your mat. Your hands are just behind your hips, spine is straight. Bring your knees slightly together to touch, and then we're going to windshield wipe our legs left and right, and we're going to keep doing this, breathing whilst we're doing it. So take an inhale through your nose, and then take an exhale through your nose. And keep windshield wiping your hips. It's okay if they feel a bit stiff. Everybody's body is different. We're going to go on for a count of 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Come back to a neutral. Now we're going to come down to lie down on our mats to do a one-legged twist. But before we do this, we're going to pull our knee into our chest. So raise your right leg to the air, grab hold of it with both hands, take an inhale, and on your exhale, gently pull that right knee in towards your chest. On your next breath, try pulling it slightly out towards your rib cage, but don't splay your leg out, so you're still keeping it in nice and tight, just maybe more towards your rib cage than your chest. Keep breathing here, and with every breath, squeeze that leg in tighter. Every exhale, release any tension. Keep squeezing that leg in. Final breath. And on the next breath, keep hold of the leg but release the squeeze. And we're going to come into a single twist. So bringing the right knee over towards the left and bringing your gaze and your arms over towards the right. To help with your twist, rolling onto your left hip. You want your arm and your eyes towards the right and your hips towards the left, twisting from the navel and using your breath to relax in here. So take an inhale and a deep exhale, and we're here for 5 more breaths. You may find that with every breath you're releasing tension. Take a final breath here. And release come back to center. We're going to swap our legs over now. So lay the right leg long to the mat and grab your left leg with both hands. Take an inhale, and on your exhale, bring that left knee in towards your chest, keeping your back flat to the mat. And with every breath, maybe you begin to squeeze that leg slightly more towards the rib cage, towards the side rib cage without splaying your leg out. Take a deep inhale here, and with every exhale, squeeze your leg in. Make sure you're keeping your lower back on the mat whilst you're doing this, and just keep breathing. Keep squeezing that knee towards the rib cage. Final breath here. And keeping your hands on your knee, just release the squeeze. And we're going to come into a single leg twist, bringing your left leg to the right side, rolling onto your right hip. Left arm and head goes left. And breathe here, breathe into the twist. A few more breaths here. Inhaling through your nose and exhaling through your nose, releasing any tension, twisting from the navel. And in a moment, we're going to come back to center. Bring both legs in and squeeze both legs into your chest. And release. Now for this next part, you will need your yoga strap or folded tea towel. So grabbing hold of either item, depending on what you have. We're going to place the folded material underneath our right hip. So where the bony bit, where your lower back and butt meet, place the tea towel on that bit, just on the right side, and then release your weight onto the towel. It might feel slightly uncomfortable, which is okay, but if it feels really wrong, you can undo one of the folds so the tea towel's not so thick. From here, we're going to keep our right leg bent, left leg long, and we're going to do a half butterfly movement where we really squeeze our glutes when we get to the bottom of the movement, so when our knee comes down. So, bringing your leg down, getting to the bottom, squeezing that glute, and then releasing the squeeze, bringing that leg up. Repeat this 10 times. Down, squeeze, and come up. Keep going in your own time, making sure to squeeze every time you get to the bottom of the movement. We've got about 4 left. Squeezing that glute every time you get to the bottom of this movement. Releasing that squeeze and bringing the leg back up. Final few. Bringing that leg down, squeeze, and come back up. Now we're going to repeat this on the other side. So releasing, taking your folded tea towel or yoga strap and placing it underneath the left hip where the buttocks and lower back meet, the slightly bony bit, releasing your weight down, lengthening your right leg, and then we're going to do a half butterfly with the left leg, squeezing our glute when we get to the bottom of the movement. So bringing your leg down, squeezing that left glute, and coming back up. Keep going. You might find that the move gets deeper the more you go. This is helping to release your hip, release your pelvis. 5 more here. Bringing the leg down, squeezing the glute at the bottom, coming back up. Keep going. And we're going to come to our final one. Squeeze and bring that leg back up. Now bringing both knees bent to the mat, we are going to take our folded material, fold it so it's as thick as it can be, and we're going to place it between our knees, bringing our feet back to the mat. What we're going to do here is just squeeze this between our knees as hard as we can for 5 seconds. So just take a quick breath here, inhale, and on an exhale, squeeze. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Release the squeeze, relax. And we're going to squeeze this material as hard as we can for 5 more seconds. In a moment, just take an inhale. And on your exhale, squeeze. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Release. Final go. Taking a quick break here. And in a moment, we're going to squeeze, go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. You can take this material away from your legs. And we're going to come into our next movement, which is our bridge pose. We're going to walk our heels slightly closer towards our glutes. We're going to have our hands down towards our hips. We're going to push down on our feet and we're going to raise our hips to the sky. Ready? Inhale, raising those hips, squeezing the glutes when you get to the top, pausing for a moment, and then coming down vertebrae at vertebrae, hips last. And we're going to repeat this 5 times. So raising your hips, pushing down for your feet, squeezing your glutes, and coming down. Pause, and we're going to come back up and back down, come back up, back down. Final one, push into the feet, raise those hips to the sky, engage your glutes, engage your core. Stay here for 2 more seconds. Push, squeeze, and release. Well done. Now from here, we're going to come into a one-sided frog pose. So you're going to want to push yourself up and come back around into a tabletop position. So if you've never done a frog pose before, it's okay. What we're going to do is come down onto our belly. And then in our belly, we're going to keep our left leg long. And we're going to bring our right leg out to the side so that our knees, leg, and hips are in a line. Our leg is straight down from our knee, and our toes are long. Then they're not pointed. Your foot is flexed. So yes, you want knees, hips, leg in a line out, and your left leg just long and straight. And the goal here is to bring our right hip down close towards the mat. This will depend on your mobility. So staying on your forearms for now. When we come down to lie down fully, I want you to squeeze both your glutes so that you're evenly stretching your hips and your pelvis. So in a moment, we're going to lie down fully, resting our forehead on the mat. And I want you to squeeze your right glute and your left glute, and then release the squeeze and relax. And then we're going to repeat this a few times. So I'm going to keep my head up so I can keep talking to you, but feel free to rest your forehead on the mat. Inhale, exhale, squeeze your glutes, push that right hip towards the floor and release the squeeze. Now we're going to do it again. Squeeze your glutes, push that right hip towards the floor and then release. Squeeze, release. Once again, squeeze your glutes, release. Now see if you can stretch that leg out anymore, if your hip can come any closer to the mat. I'm going to do it a few more times. Squeeze your glutes. Imagine you're pushing both hips towards the mat. Just picture it. And then release the squeeze. Squeeze your glutes. Picture your hips coming to the floor. Release. Final one, squeeze and release. And we're going to do this on our left side. So come back onto your forearms if you need to. Bring that right hip in and lay that right leg straight. Maybe give your hips a little wiggle from side to side. And we're going to do it on our left side. So bring your left leg out. You want your hips, leg and knee in a line. Your lower leg coming down from the knee and your toes are flexed. From here, we're going to try and bring our left hip as close to the mat as we can. And we're going to do this through the motion of squeezing and releasing our glutes to let go of tension. So, just like last time, you are welcome to lie all the way down and rest your forehead on the mat. I'm just keeping my body up so that you can hear me talk into my microphone. So, what we're going to do is squeeze our left glute and push both hips down, squeeze and release. Squeeze, release. Squeeze both your glutes, push your hips and release. Maybe your left hip can come a bit further down. And we're going to keep going. Squeeze those glutes and release. Squeeze, release. Squeeze, release. Now imagine that your hips are both sliding towards the mat. Ready? Squeeze your glutes and release. Last few. Squeezing that left glute, pushing both hips down. Release. Final one. Squeeze and release. Now we're going to come out of our single leg frog pose. Bring your legs back together. Maybe give your hips a roll. Come back onto your forearms. And from here, we're going to come to our final few postures. So we're going to begin with a downward dog, moving into a pigeon, and then ending with a corkscrew. So coming into a tabletop, palms on the mat, knees on the mat. We're going to tuck our toes and come into a downward dog position, pushing into the palms, elongating the back. Now to warm up those hamstrings, you might want to walk your dog, flexing your toes. If your hamstrings are really tight, you might want to keep your knees bent. Do whatever feels good here. Stretch into your downward dog. For 4, 3, 2, 1. And then we're going to raise our right leg to the sky and come into a pigeon pose. So we're bringing the right knee to the right wrist. We're dropping the back leg and we're bringing the left toes towards the edge of the left mat. And with the pigeon pose, you might want to bring your left toes further towards your left wrist or further towards your left hip, depending on your mobility. And also in this posture, you might want to get your folded tea towel, place it underneath your right hip for a little bit of extra support. And the idea is you want eventually both hips to relax down, but this might not feel comfortable right now. Staying here, we're just going to do a sleeping pigeon, so crawl yourself forward and release over your body for a few breaths. To evenly stretch your hips, imagine you're pushing both hips down towards the mat. Keep breathing here to let go of any tension. And in a moment, using your hands, crawl yourself back up. Tuck that back toe and release the pigeon stretch back into a downward dog. Push back. And we're going to do the same on the left side. Raise the left leg. Bring it through. Place your left knee by your left wrist. Drop that back leg. Your right toes are towards the right edge of your mat. They may be by your hip or your hand, depending on your flexibility. And you might want to get your folded towel and place it underneath that left hip for support. And the idea is eventually you want both hips to come down towards the ground. We're going to just have an adjustment here, and then we're going to lean forward, come into a sleeping pigeon on the left side. Take a few breaths. A few more breaths here. And now, using our hands, crawling our body back up, we're going to tuck that back toe to release ourselves out of this stretch, coming back into a downward dog. Stretch out those hamstrings. Again, do whatever feels comfortable here. And we're going to come into our final posture, raising that right leg up. Bring that right foot just outside of the right hand. Drop that left knee. And then from here, we're going to bring our right palm to our right thigh and just push into it so we're twisting ever so slightly. Now you can stay here, or if this feels good, you can grab hold of your left leg and come into a corkscrew pose, which will add a hamstring stretch into the posture. We're here for a count of 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Release and untwist. And we're going to do the same on the other side. We're just going to swap our legs round, no downward dog. So bring the right leg back, left leg forward. Begin by just doing a simple twist, left palm onto left thigh, push that leg away from you. If that feels good, you can raise the right knee, grab hold of it, and twist and add a hamstring stretch to the twist. This is our corkscrew posture. And we're here for a count of 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Release. Bring your untwist, hands back to the mat. Now from here, we're going to bring our leg back and we're going to come into a wide-legged child's pose as our closing posture. So bring your knees as wide as the mat, toes together to touch. Sink your hips back and down and then crawl your hands forward before resting your head gently on the mat. I want you to stay in this wide-legged child's pose, taking a few deep breaths here, crawling your hands forward and sinking your hips back. And feel free to stay in this wide-legged child's pose for as long as you want. But this is the end of me guiding your practice. I hope you can use some of the moves from today's practice to help you with some mobility, maybe some injury rehab. I love doing these before a run so that I know I'm going to be evenly working both sides when I'm running. But yeah, thank you so much for practicing with me today. Until next time.